My entire life, I thought I was just a regular kid with a slightly complicated backstory. My mom, Denise, always told me my dad died in a motorcycle accident before I was born, and that things had been tough for her ever since. We lived in a small house, didn't have a lot, but I never felt unloved. Denise worked 2 jobs for most of my childhood, and I grew up thinking she was just the strongest, most selfless woman alive. She never talked much about family. No pictures on the walls, no stories about a childhood or siblings. I figured her past was painful and didn't want to pry. I was never really close to extended family either, because, as far as I knew, there wasn't any. No cousins, no grandparents, no family vacations or reunions. It was just me and Denise against the world. That changed last month. I needed a copy of my birth certificate to apply for a passport. Denise had always handled that kind of stuff for me, but now that I was trying to be independent, I figured I could do it myself. When I went to the county clerk's office to request a copy, they asked for some ID, printed it off, and handed it to me with a smile. No big deal. Until I looked at it. Under mother's name, it said Marissa Green. Not Denise. Not even close. I froze. I asked the clerk if it could be a mistake. She said no, it was a certified copy from the original filing, and if I had any questions, I should speak to my parents. So I went home, birth certificate in hand, heart racing. I was hoping, honestly hoping, Denise would say it was a typo or a mix-up at the hospital. But the second she saw the paper in my hand, her face went pale. She sat down like her legs stopped working, and all she said was, "You weren't supposed to find out like this." That's when everything cracked open. She admitted the truth. Marissa Green is her younger sister. My biological mother. Denise said she took me in when I was just a few months old. That Marissa was in no place to raise a child, and begged her to keep me. According to her, Marissa wanted to finish college, start a career, live her life without the burden of a baby. So Denise stepped in and raised me as her own, even legally adopted me later on, but never changed my birth certificate. I asked her where Marissa is now. She said, "You don't want to know." But she was wrong. I had to know. So I started looking. I didn't even know where to start. I had a name, Marissa Green, but no idea what she looked like. No address, no phone number. But I had the internet, and more importantly, I had determination. I started digging through old school records, yearbooks, local news articles, anything that might mention a Marissa Green in my state. After 2 solid days of obsessive searching, I hit something, a wedding announcement from 12 years ago. Marissa Green had married a man named David Cross. It listed the town they got married in, and boom, that gave me a lead. Their names popped up again on a local business registry for a small bakery about an hour from where I live. The business was still active. I stared at the page for a long time, debating whether or not I was really going to do this. But I'd already opened the box. There was no closing it now. The next morning, I got in my car and drove to the bakery. It was weird walking in. I half expected someone to just know who I was on site, like it would hit them instantly. But nobody looked twice at me. I pretended I was just a customer, ordered a muffin and a coffee, and sat at a little table near the register to observe. A woman came out from the back a few minutes later, wiping her hands on a towel. She was in her 40s, shoulder-length brown hair, tired eyes, but something about her felt familiar. Like when you hear a song you've forgotten but still know every word to. I watched her laugh with another customer, and I swear I recognized her smile. I knew it was her. My mother. I didn't say anything. I just sat there in silence, sipping my coffee and trying not to fall apart. I waited until she went back into the kitchen, then I got up and walked out. That should have been the end of it. But it wasn't. Later that night, I found myself scrolling through the bakery's Facebook page. And there she was again, Marissa, in a family photo, standing next to a tall man, David, I assumed, and 2 younger kids. A boy and a girl. The caption said something like, "Proud of our little team," and tagged everyone. The kids looked like they were maybe 10 and 13. Blonde hair, blue eyes. They looked normal. Happy. Like they had a perfect life. And I hated that I felt jealous. But I did. What wrecked me most was that nowhere on her page, in any photo or post, was there even a hint of me. It was like I'd never existed. I didn't sleep that night. I kept replaying everything in my head, her smile, her laugh, the way she joked with that customer like life was easy. Like nothing was missing. Like I wasn't missing. By morning, my hands were shaking. I needed answers. I couldn't go another day pretending this wasn't tearing me apart. So I made a decision I can't take back. I sent her a message. I didn't go in swinging. I just said, "Hi Marissa, This is going to sound strange, but I believe I'm your daughter. My name is Ava. I was born in April, 21 years ago. I just found out about you recently, and I'd really like to talk, if you're open to it. I read it over 10 times before I hit send. Then I turned off my phone and left it on my desk. I couldn't stand the thought of seeing that little typing bubble and not knowing what it would mean. 4 hours later, I finally checked. No response. But it had been seen. That alone sent my heart pounding. She'd read it. She knew I existed. But still, nothing? The next morning, my inbox pinged. My stomach dropped when I saw her name. The message was short. Too short. Ava, I'm sorry. I can't talk about this. Please don't contact me again. That was it. One line. 21 years, and one cold sentence. I stared at the screen so long I forgot to blink. Then the rage hit me like a wave. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw something. All I could think was, how dare she? How could she live a full life, raise 2 other kids, and pretend I didn't exist? Worse, how could she shut me down like I was some scam artist or stalker? I wanted to know everything. Why she gave me away. Why Denise never told me. Why she didn't even ask if I was okay. But the only thing I got was silence. Until the next day. Because apparently, she didn't block me. And I found something I wasn't supposed to see. I wasn't trying to snoop, at least not at first. I was just spiraling. I couldn't stop staring at her profile picture, zooming in on every detail like it held some kind of secret. But when I clicked on her name again, something caught my eye. Her account wasn't private. Not fully, anyway. Some of her older posts were still public, photos, comments, even shares. I knew I shouldn't be digging deeper, but something in me said look. And I did. That's when I found the post. It was from 13 years ago. A picture of Marissa at some beach resort with her husband, captioned much-needed family getaway before school starts back up. But the part that made my blood run cold wasn't the photo. It was a comment underneath it, from someone named Denise. Just 5 words, you look so happy now. I clicked the name, heart racing. And there she was, my Denise. The woman who raised me. Different profile picture, same face. Their accounts were linked. They'd known each other. They'd been in contact. So much for the story about never seeing her again. I dug deeper, and the more I read, the clearer it became. There were little exchanges between them going back almost 15 years. All subtle, all quiet. Nothing too revealing unless you knew what to look for. They were never estranged. Which meant one thing, Denise had been lying. They didn't drift apart. There wasn't some falling out. My mother didn't vanish. They stayed in touch. My whole life, they were connected. Quietly. Carefully. Like I was some secret they were both guarding. And that's when the sickest thought hit me. What if I was the secret? Once that thought got in my head, I couldn't shake it. I went from confused to obsessed. I started scrolling through every post, every old comment between them, reading into things I might have missed. It felt like watching my childhood shatter in real time. There were years where they barely interacted online. But once in a while, Denise would drop a vague comment, things like I'm glad everything worked out for you, or some things just aren't meant to be brought back. Innocent on the surface, but layered with meaning once you knew what was really going on. It felt so strategic. Like they knew people might see, so they danced around the truth with carefully worded nothing statements. I couldn't decide which betrayal hurt more, Marissa pretending I didn't exist, or Denise pretending I wasn't owed the truth. And I couldn't sit with it anymore. I confronted Denise that night. I didn't tell her about the messages or the Facebook digging. I just asked, point blank, did you lie to me? Were you in contact with Marissa all these years? Her reaction wasn't shock or guilt. It was exhaustion. She didn't deny it. She said she kept in touch just in case. In case Marissa ever changed her mind. In case she wanted to be involved. In case I ever got curious. But according to her, Marissa made it clear from the beginning, she didn't want to raise me. Didn't want to be a mother. She signed over everything and moved on. I asked why she never told me. Her answer? She thought she was protecting me. She said Marissa was unstable back then. That she'd been selfish, reckless, not ready for the life Denise had to pick up in her place. And even though she stayed in touch, it was more out of obligation than anything else. But I couldn't tell if that was the truth, or just the version she needed to believe to sleep at night. Then Denise said something I'll never forget. She said if you ever found her, she wouldn't know what to say. She told me that. Years ago. So basically, they planned for this. They knew this day would come. And they both hoped I'd never get this far. After that night, the air between Denise and me completely changed. We still lived in the same house, but but it didn't feel like home anymore. Every room felt like a scene from a lie. I couldn't even look at old photo albums without wondering what she was hiding behind every smile. I thought about moving out, but I had nowhere to go yet. No savings, no backup plan. So I stayed, but I kept my distance. Denise tried to act normal, like things would settle down if we just ignored the explosion that had gone off, but I wasn't playing along anymore. And then, like fate just couldn't leave me alone, something else happened. A letter came in the mail. Handwritten envelope. No return address. But I recognized the handwriting. It was shaky, small, careful. It was Marissa. Inside was a folded sheet of paper. Just one page. No greeting, no apology. She jumped right in. I saw your message. I didn't answer because I didn't know how. But after thinking about it, I guess you deserve something. Not everything, but something. She went on to say that she was only 19 when she had me. She'd been terrified. Alone. She didn't have support from her parents, and she was dealing with things she didn't even know how to explain. She said she always knew Denise would be a better mother than she ever could be, and that she asked her to take me, not out of cruelty, but out of desperation. Then came the part that changed everything. David doesn't know about you. Neither do the kids. I never told them. I couldn't. I wanted a clean slate. That sentence hit me like a brick. She hadn't just hidden me from the world. She'd hidden me from her own family. From her husband. Her children. For 21 years, she'd lived this entire second life, without ever once acknowledging that I existed. The letter ended with this: please don't contact me again. I'm sorry. But opening this door would destroy everything I've built. There it was. I wasn't a daughter. I was a threat. Not a memory, a risk. She chose peace over me. I read that letter at least 20 times. Every time I hoped I'd misunderstood something, missed a line where she said she wanted to meet, or explain, or make things right. But no. It was clear. She was done. And I finally understood what Denise meant when she said she was protecting me. She wasn't shielding me from the truth. She was shielding me from rejection. From this. But it still didn't make it right. I didn't ask to be born. I didn't ask for any of this. And yet somehow, I was the one being told not to ruin someone else's life. A life that never had space for me in the first place. The worst part? I started to believe her. I started to feel like maybe I was the problem. I told myself, don't respond. Burn the letter. Move on. But part of me couldn't stop picturing those kids, my half-siblings, eating breakfast in some sunny kitchen, maybe telling stories about their supermom, while the truth stayed buried like I was some mistake she prayed would stay gone. I couldn't help it. I went back to the bakery. I wasn't planning to talk to her again. I wasn't going to cause a scene. I needed to see if she looked guilty. If she even flinched when she saw me. But this time was different. I parked across the street, and before I even got out of the car, the front door opened. Marissa stepped out, alone, and lit a cigarette. She looked straight at me. I froze. She knew. She saw me. And I swear, for a second, I saw panic flash across her face. Not anger. Not guilt. Fear. And then she did something I'll never forget. She walked back inside, and locked the door. I sat in the car for almost 20 minutes after that, staring at the closed door, the tiny open sign still glowing in the window like nothing had happened. Like I hadn't just watched my own mother spot me from across the street and retreat like I was a threat. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. But it shattered something I didn't even know was still intact. I drove away without touching the coffee I'd picked up on the way. Didn't even turn the radio on. I just drove in silence, back to a house that no longer felt like mine, to a woman who raised me out of love, but also out of a secret. When I walked in, Denise was in the kitchen like usual, humming while stirring something on the stove. The smell hit me first, tomato soup. My childhood comfort food. And for the first time in weeks, I broke. I just stood there, holding myself up against the wall, tears running down my face. Denise turned around and didn't say a word. She just opened her arms. And I let her hold me. I cried harder than I thought I could. Not because I was mad anymore, but because I was done. Tired of chasing someone who clearly didn't want to be found. Tired of waiting for someone to love me just because they should. Denise didn't say, I told you so. She didn't try to explain anything. She just let me fall apart. And weirdly, that made me feel more seen than anything Marissa had ever written. Later that night, I asked Denise one more question. If she didn't want me, why didn't you just tell me the truth sooner? She looked at me like she'd been waiting years for that question. And then she said it. Because I wanted you to believe, for as long as possible, that you were wanted from the very beginning. That sentence stuck to my ribs like cement. I wanted you to believe you were wanted. Denise wasn't perfect. She lied, she hid the truth, and for years she let me live under an illusion. But in that moment, I realized something I hadn't let myself admit. She didn't do it out of cruelty. She did it out of love. And maybe that love was messy. Maybe it was tangled in years of silence and decisions she didn't know how to undo. But it was still love. And at least she chose me. Marissa didn't. And she still doesn't. I stopped trying to make sense of it after that. I stopped hoping for a tearful reunion or a late-night message telling me she changed her mind. I started focusing on the woman who showed up, the one who scraped together enough money for field trips, who sat through every school play, who stayed up with me when I was sick and sang terribly off-key just to make me laugh. That was the woman who raised me. I began writing everything down. Every detail I could remember, my first bike ride, the snowman we built in 3rd grade, the way Denise used to stick silly notes in my lunchbox with bad jokes and heart stickers. I wrote it all out like it was evidence in a case I was trying to win against myself, proof that I had been loved all along, that I mattered. And then I did something I never thought I'd do. I burned Marissa's letter. Not out of spite, not as some dramatic goodbye, but as a way to let go of the weight she never wanted to carry. It was never mine to hold in the first place. It's been 3 months since I found out the truth. 3 months since I unraveled the life I thought I knew. 3 months since I stood across the street from the woman who gave birth to me and watched her lock the door. And I'm still here, still healing. Still angry sometimes, but less often now. The kind of anger that used to burn like fire has settled into something quieter, an ache, not a roar. I'm learning to live with it. I moved out last week. Not because I was running from Denise, but because I needed to figure out who I am outside of this story. I found a small apartment with peeling paint and terrible plumbing, but it's mine. I hung a photo of me and Denise on the wall, one from years ago, where I'm wearing a lopsided birthday hat and she's laughing with cake on her nose. It's not perfect, but it's real. That's what I'm holding on to now, what's real. I haven't heard from Marissa since the letter. And I've stopped checking her social media. I don't need to watch her pretend I don't exist. I already lived that. I'm not doing it again. As for her kids, my half-siblings, they still don't know. Maybe they never will. Maybe one day they'll find out in some twisted, roundabout way like I did. Or maybe she'll take the truth to her grave. Either way, I've decided it's not my job to break their world just because mine was. What I do know is this: blood doesn't make someone your mother. Love does. Denise didn't give birth to me. But she gave me everything else. And in the end, that's enough. So if you've made it this far, thank you. I didn't share this to get sympathy. I shared it because maybe someone out there is digging through their past right now, wondering why it hurts so much to search for someone who's not looking back. You're not alone. You're not unlovable. You're not the secret. You're the story that someone else didn't have the courage to tell. But you're still here. And that means you get to write the ending.